I'm going to do some of the talking, and then Brendan's going to talk about grown media as well. So yeah, we're going to cover off quite a lot of stuff, so we're going to float across it, but we'll obviously welcome any questions, and we can always follow up if there's something more detailed you want to know. So I'm just going to kick it off and talk about ICL as a company and what we do. And it gives you an idea of our resources and what we bring to horticulture. So I mean, ICL is a very large company. It's a global company. We're focused on specialty minerals and chemicals. We employ over 11,000 people with a $5 billion turnover. So it's a big operation. But the advantage it gives us, in the UK and Ireland is that, we have raw materials, in our supply chain, and we make the most of that because the global resources are vast. Just to show you a bit about ICL, they're a specialty mineral company. They have resources throughout the world, from the Dead Sea to the UK, Spain, the Negev Desert, and we're focused, over 50% is focused on agriculture and horticulture, but we also use these in engineered materials like paints, but also preservatives in food and things like that. So it's a big operation, and we produce a huge range of products that we're able to use whenever we need them. But there's very little waste from our resources. There's a huge range of products that are used in the industrial side as well as fertilizers. So it just gives you a bit of a background there. And just a few pictures from around the globe. This is the Negev Desert with the phosphate production. Phosphate is quite a scarce resource, and there's not many resources around the world. So it has to be efficiently extracted. And over time with fertilizers, we're becoming more efficient with their use and reducing the amount we use because we don't want to waste them. This is the Dead Sea Works in Israel, in the Dead Sea, and we're utilising the power of the sun here to evaporate salts and then collect them, and it's an amazing operation with very pure products produced. And you can see the salts that have just evaporated in the sun with the water leaving. And you can see the scale of the lakes they have, and then a dredging operation with some production lines. And amazingly, they're able to store the finished product in the open air. That's not quite possible in our climate, but it shows you the power of the sun. We also have resources in Europe. We have some big mines in the mountains just north of Barcelona. And again, it's potash mining, and we have several mines there that are linked to the port of Barcelona. But the most exciting mine that we have is in the North York Moors, and it's the deepest mine in Europe. It's about 1,100 meters down, and it's right on the edge of the North Sea there. And the actual mine goes out, 20 kilometers underneath the North Sea. So it's quite an operation, and everything has to come to the surface there. They have their own railway line with direct access to Tyne-Tees port. So it's a huge operation. We only use a small amount of it. Most of it's exported. But I think you can see there that we have the raw materials, but it's what ICL is really good at is innovation and formulation. And obviously from these raw materials we make our specialty products like Osmocote, which are world-leading products. Looking at the UK and Ireland, obviously some of our resources are peat bogs, which are up in Scotland, focused around Gretna Green, just over the border. We also have Cleveland Potash there, the potash mine. We have granulation plants and distribution warehouses. And it's quite a slick operation with very good distribution from Lawford in the centre of the UK there, with our grown media factory just on the Scottish border. One of our sister companies is Omega Sciences, and they're world leaders in surfactant technology, producing wetting agents and things like that. So they produce a whole range of products for us, including our H2 Grow wetting agent, which I'll tell you more about. But we work very closely with innovation and producing new products. such as Mufix, which is a water conditioner that changes colour when you have the pH correct. Spotless, which is our tank cleaner. There's lots of formulation going on there. This is Nutbury, our growing media production site, just over the border. Brendan's going to tell you more about this, so I won't go into too much detail. But it's where we produce our Levington Advance solutions, growing media. Within the UK and Ireland, we have 3 divisions. Brendan and myself are part of professional horticulture, and we really focus on ornamentals and vegetable propagation. We also have a very large turf and amenity side, supplying all the major Premiership football clubs and golf clubs and things like that. But we don't get too involved in that. And there's a smaller speciality agricultural division, focusing on strawberries and top fruit and things like that. We have a big team in the UK in the field, and that's key to what we do. It's visiting growers in normal times and giving advice and technical backup. Brendan's now joined the team. It's quite a big area, but there's lots of support within the team, including myself. So Brendan's going to tell you more about this, but this is Levington Advance, which is our growing media. This is our peat-based growing media. But times are changing, and we also have Levington Advance Sustain, which is our peat-free offering. Peat-free sounds such a negative word. Really, sustainable growing media is a much better word, so that's why we call it Sustain. But we can bring these together and produce solutions for growers. So we look at the whole nursery and the crop, and we give you a solution to grow the crop. Taking into account all of our technical information and the conditions you have on the nursery. So this is Levington Advance, which is the peat-based range. Increasingly, we're adding other products to reduce the amount of peat. So most of our growers, in England and Scotland, are using 30 to 40% peat reduction, and it's working really well and increasing year on year. But in all of our mixes, we want it to be the best. So we include H2 Grow wetting agent, but also a very strong trace element package, Micromax, which is a very long-term, slow-release trace element package. It's really gives you that edge. So what's in our growing media? Well, Brendan's going to tell you more about the ingredients, but in terms of nutrition, we all know about PG mix or a starter fertilizer, and obviously, that's a water-soluble base that's quickly washed away, and there's more and more awareness that the base fertilizer is quickly leached. So we look at other alternatives as well, including coated fertilizers like Osmocote, but also slow-release nitrogen products, which are really useful to buffer nitrogen, but also water-soluble fertilizers for supplementary feeding. So there's quite a lot going on the nutrition side, and this is our real strength. This is what we can talk about and advise you on. And when we talk about Osmocote, we have lots of different sorts in terms of the standard Osmocote Pros, but also Osmocote Exacts with different release patterns. So we can tailor the release to the needs of the crop. And products like High End with the slow starting release pattern have been really successful. We also have new high-K products as well. But obviously we can offer products that last from 6 weeks up to 16 to 18 months. So it's quite an offering that we have. And it's not just standard size granules. We could do mini prills as well. So if you're into propagation or small cells, we have some mini Osmocotes, an Osmocote Bloom for bedding plants, that last from 6 weeks to 5 to 6 months. But the granules, you get 3 times as many granules, so it's much more efficient in smaller cells. And if you get it right, you get the right results. And this is what it's all about. So we give you the correct advice. We use our Angela Webb 3 software, to predict the release and give you the best results, for your particular crop. And obviously, supplementary nutrition is another issue. And obviously, your water is very important, but we can obviously advise on the water-soluble fertilizers to use as well. We've got a standard range of universals for soft and hard water, but also our top-of-the-range Peat's products. And again, we can use the Angela Webb to advise on it. So that's just a quick overview. I'm going to pass you over to Brendan now, just to talk about nutlery and with the production there.
Thanks, Andrew. Hello, everyone. So yeah, my background is I was with Bord na Móna for quite a few years, looking after the growing media for professional growers in Ireland. And obviously with the change in licensing laws and, as the years gone on, Bord na Móna have exited. So the option has come up to service Irish growers both north and south of Ireland with grown media from ICL. So that's how I've come to join the company. You could go on there, Andrew. So this is the factory. On the map, you can see the red dot where it's located. It's just off the M6, which is a great arterial corridor for transport down across into the UK. But also, if you just look to the left, you have that road that comes across there, the A75, and it goes along to Carnryan, which is where the ferry port is to Belfast. And there's between 6 and 8 crossings a day. So realistically, you'll get to the ferry in 2 hours, and the crossing is 2 hours. So you can be in Belfast within 4 hours. So we started bringing product across the 1st of February. And it's working really well. It's picked up just after lunch, and it's with the grower the next morning at 9 o'clock. And that's with every load that we've brought over to date. So we started on a small scale, just bringing full loads over because, transport was, and the custom side of it and Brexit, everything just came together. So we started off just basically with full loads, but we're now offering split loads now as well at the moment. We're moving out, and we'll look to further split out those loads again further as we develop the market in. As I say, it's a great option for growers in Ireland just to, peat is becoming an issue, and you need a guarantee of supply, basically. That's what would be my point. You cannot plan a crop for the year without having a guaranteed supply for the year. So, these are the brands. The Humax is actually it's nearly professional, but it's a retail brand designed for allotment growers, and it's produced early in the year and shipped out so that it makes room for the production in the factory. But it's a very good range of product, a very established brand. And then obviously Andrew mentioned the Levington Advance, which leads to the solutions for peat reduced and peat free. So we have a little video which we hope will work. And this is about the actual peat side on the moors in Scotland.
Let's get it to play. I don't know why.
Yeah, don't.
Leave this.
It's okay, Andrew. You can move. I don't think it's going to work. We had this working earlier, so apologies to everyone. I mean, I can explain the harvesting more, but basically, it's a 3-day situation where the first day you go out and you mill, so you're barely scouring the surface of the mill or of the bog just to aerate it and break it up loosely. And the following day you come along with the harrow, which are small spoon harrows. There could be 30 of them in a line, and that just creates the ridges and passes more air over them. And on the 3rd day, then the ridger will come along and bring it into the center of each row, and the harvester, which you can see there, on the left will pick it up into the wagons and bring it to the stockpile. The bog area is approximately 200 hectares. And that peat is secure, you know, as part of a transition from 100% peat going forward to peat reduction and peat free. We're actually producing peat free mixes quite successfully at the moment. This is a picture of the bog in dry weather. So you can see there's a dome on each field that leads down into the drains, which means that it drains quite quickly. And the next one then, Andrew, is what you'd see it like in the winter. It's not a nice place to be. It's not just, you wouldn't put machinery or anything out on it, but it dries up very quick. And they are professional bogs. They're just, there's no retail peat harvested on these bogs. And you can see that, how clean the bogs are. Very, very well maintained bogs. And you go from the bogs then into the nutberry production. We do have a video on that too next, but I doubt that one will work, Andrew, either. But we can try it. No.
Apologies. I might be able to play them separately in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there was a lot in the video, but basically you have two hoppers where the raw materials are brought into, and it means that you can blend two grades of peat or two supplies of peat. Ornamental would have traditionally supplied ICL every year with peat, and it would have been blended with the Scottish peat. They still have a good supply of that peat there. And what you see there on the right is the bays which hold peat as it's screened out to get the different particle sizes, which are, you know, they're very important for pot plant mixes and nursery stock mixes. And on the left end, they're just a picture of the bales. So that's the two hoppers there, Peat 1 and Peat 2. And it goes through a fairly lengthy process. And it goes through a star screen, which is up in the roof of the building. And on the lower part, you can see the 4 bays where the different particle sizes go into. And at the very end of the left, that's actually oversize. Thanks, Andrew. Then this is just a look at the precision, how the motors can be adjusted to suit all different peat changes. It's variable in density and moisture, so they can either slow or speed up to give that consistent fraction quality. And that's a picture of the screen from underneath. They're called star screens. And this is a close-up then of the bay of one of the fractions. Each bay is lined with timber, so you don't get any contamination from walls, you know, going in with loaders. There's no break off. It's quite a good setup, actually. But that what you're seeing there are the 4 grades. The 0 to 3 is predominantly used in propagation and seed and modular. It's a very fine, very free-flowing product. 0 to 10 then, the actual peat will screen out most percentage of 0 to 10. 0 to 10 is what you see in bedding. And 6 to 12 and 10 to 25 then are the bigger fractions. So you generally blend 0 to 10 and 6 to 12 for popland, and 0 to 10 and 10 to 25 for nursery stock. And percentage-wise, you'll only get about 10% from the 10 to 25 and 6 to 12. So it's a very valuable product. That's a picture of the back of the factory looking in. So what you're seeing there is about 10 different hoppers which hold all the different fertilizers. And that drops down by computer program onto the underneath there where the peat is passing on a conveyor. And the exact programmed amount drops in, and it goes up the second conveyor into a mixing container then. Okay. And that's just an overview of the two hoppers on the outside. So the type of product that's produced and how it's packaged, there's three lines. One is produced in 75-litre special mixes in 75-litre bags. Another line is doing IBCs, so generally 3 cubic meters. And then we've the pro bale line, which is the compressed bale that you would use in a bale breaker. And we also do the bulk mixes then, where bulk trucks, walking floors, etc. come in. So that would be the 4-way the products would be distributed. And I'll pass you back to Andrew there. Apologies on the videos.
Yeah, I'll see if I can bring them up if we get time. So just talking about peat reduction, really. It's the way of the world, and we've been working on this for many years, and lots of our growers have obviously been using bark and things like that since the 80s and 90s. But wood fibres come along, and Coir has been used quite a lot. But it's important that when we consider raw materials, we look at the properties and the pluses and minuses of using them. As I say, we've used bark for a long time. We only use pine bark because it's the best quality product, the best shape, and if it's stored properly, it can be good. But there is a potential to lock up nitrogen, and obviously it's got a very low water holding capacity. So that can be useful for overwintering nursery stock. But if you haven't got peat as well, you need to look at other ingredients to try and hold some moisture. So wood fibre is a newer material that's been around for quite a few years now, but it has, it's nice and light. It's cheap to transport. It means you can get more media on a lorry. A high air capacity, it means quick rooting, but it can also slump a little bit. And there is potential to lock up some nitrogen. It's quite small, but more importantly, there's potential to leach nutrients, because none of these products have really got the same buffering capacity as peat has. A product that's quite interesting and has been looked at a lot, particularly by the UK government and CAFRE and people like that, is green compost. It's a very variable product, and it's being sourced from curbside collections mostly, so it's quite a risky product. So we don't use it at all in professional products. There's potential to have herbicides from lawn cuttings and things like that in there, but potentially it's got a good a good buffering capacity, holds moisture. It can be very high in conductivity. So if we had the right resource of it, we could use it. Coir is something we use a lot of. It's coming from Sri Lanka and India. It's a genuine waste product. There are some issues with the transport, but energy-wise, it's probably similar to wood fibre, which has quite a high energy input. The shipping is quite low energy, so you've got to consider those. Quality is the biggest problem with Coir. If it's not washed properly, you can get quite a lot of salinity effects. And as we've noticed this year with the COVID, it's long shipping times, and you can run out quite easily. So be aware of that. We're looking at the bark. We use it a lot. We have 3 different grades. The finer grades hold a bit more moisture, and we use the coarser grades to really open up nursery stock mixes. As long as it's aged properly, the stability is quite good. If you use it fresh, you can lose some nitrogen. As I mentioned, the Coir, it's the most similar particle to peat. As long as you've got a quality product and you've washed it properly and buffered it, it can be good. So we tend to use a combination of products, not just one. But the biggest problem we see with peat reduction is nitrogen losses, either by leaching, because the products don't bind the nutrients as well, or by mobilization, which mean locking up in terms of barks and wood fibres. So we have to take account of these things when we're formulating a mix. And most of the nitrogen that is leached is nitrate nitrogen. And it's a double-edged sword, really, because you might be watering these peat reduced mix is more than a standard mix, so you will get more leaching, and the media itself holds less nutrients. So it's, that's the double-edged sword. But as long as you're aware of these factors, you can take account of it in the nutrition. So ICL have been looking at wood fibre for a long time. In the past we've sourced different wood fibres. We found various problems with them. Some of the wood fibre, is quite clumpy and forms balls a bit like cotton wool. So we looked at our own process and put our own machinery in, and we have a product using FSC timber from a sustainable source local to the factory. So we've got a huge woodland resource all around Dumfries in the forest there. So it's nice and close to the factory, and we've produced a product that has much stiffer fibres that don't knit, don't wool up as much as some of the other products, but give you a good structure without the slumping. I can show you some pictures in close-up. And we have this double-edged, double-ended strand, what we call split ends, and the ends split more, and it gives you a really good structure that holds together. It's an extra matrix for root growth. And you see some blends there on the right with 30, 50, and 70% wood fibre there, mixed with like bedding peat, 0 to 10 millimetre peat. And we've done extensive trials on these products. Our wood fibre has particular characteristics that make it easier to work with, and I'll tell you a bit more about that. Before we produced it, we did a lot of work on comparing our wood fibre with wood fibres around the world, and we came up with a product that had a perfect balance of water holding capacity and airfield porosity. So you want it to hold some moisture, but you also want air in there as well. Lots of the products we saw had very high airfield porosity, but less water holding. And obviously that isn't great if you're trying to grow a crop. You don't want to be watering every 5 minutes and then leaching out nutrients. So the balance with our product, which is called Fibagro Advance, is a very good one. We didn't just stop there. We looked at the other properties in terms of the buffering. This is what you call cation exchange capacity. And we were involved, in a project with the AHDB and ADAS, and there was lots of testing of different products. And if you look at the table there, the cation exchange capacity of the Fibagro was very high. It was over 15, and lots of the wood fibres that we tried were under 5. So it just tells you that this product is going to hold on to more nutrients, which is essential for optimum growth. And in the ADAS trials, they looked at lots of different products from barks to wood fibres, and our Fibagro Advance came out really well. But if you're considering peat reduction, if you consider certain factors first, you're going to make the job easier, really. The irrigation needs are different than a straight peat mix, and you need to monitor and adjust the irrigation in terms of the period, how long the irrigation's on, but also the frequency. You do need to pick up some pots and get used to how these products dry out. We're all used to peat-based products where the surface looks dry, indicating it needs to be watered. These products with wood fibre in particular can go very dry on the top, but still be moist underneath. So it's a real lesson to go and look at the crop and pick up the pots, else you'll end up overwatering them. They inherently hold a little bit less water than a peat-based compost, but if you use a good wetting agent like H2 Grow, which I'll tell you more about, you will ensure that every time you water, you water up the pot to capacity. You don't get dry areas within the pot, and this will help with the watering frequency. But the big thing to consider is the nitrogen, and we have various products that could counter that. We have slow release nitrogen in terms of Osmoform. We also have Osmocote Calmag, and this is a really clever product because it also has calcium and magnesium in there as well. And when you're using less peat, you need less lime in there. And lime contains calcium and magnesium. So if you also have soft water as well, you can quite quickly lead to deficiencies of calcium and magnesium with your peat reduced growing. So it's something to be aware of. And obviously these products tend to have a slightly higher pH. So trace elements are key, and particularly iron. So we utilise the Micromax Premium, which is our slow release trace element package, and that really gives you better leaf colour in these products. So you can see, when we work on a product, we're looking across the board to make sure you get the best results. These are some of the products that we use: the Osmocote CalMag, Osmocote N is a controlled release nitrogen, and Osmoform IN. And these are really to improve the nitrogen levels within the media, just to feed the bark a little bit, just to ensure that we get optimum growth, particularly at the start. And this is just a trial really to show you what happens if you don't take account of the nitrogen. So there's some Limicera nitida here. It's a pretty vigorous plant. We grew the plants on the left, which are slightly paler. We grew them in a mix of 70% peat and 30% wood fibre with standard nutrition. We didn't add anything extra. And the plants on the right, we added some extra nitrogen as controlled release nitrogen, a very small amount, only 250 grams per cubic metre. So it's a quarter of a gram per litre. But you can see the effect on the leaf colour there, and the plants are bushier as well. So you haven't got excess growth, you've just got bushier, greener plants. And these little tweaks, can really make a difference to the growth that you get. And then this is just shows how comprehensive it can be with our mixes. If you're going for peat reduced or peat free mixes, we take account of that in terms of the Micromax, the base feeds that we're putting in, and whether we're using slow release, controlled release nitrogen, and then the extra levels of H2 Grow that we're adding, to really help with the peat reduction. And obviously the lime levels are going down. But these are things that we can talk about in detail. I just wanted to show you how comprehensive it was. But as I say, with these new medias, irrigation is the key. And peat-free and peat-reduced medias can be quite dry when they're delivered, particularly in the summer. It has a real advantage for how much you get on a lorry. But after you've potted them up, it's really important to fully wet them up the first time, to really activate the wetting agents and the nitrogen products. And there's a tendency, for these products to be quite hydrophobic, and in the first watering, the water can find the easiest way through. So using H2 Grow as a wetting agent will really help in those situations. But I think it is important, if you're potting plugs in really hot weather, that you do water them soon after potting, because the media can be very dry. Once they've been wetted up properly after the first and second waterings, they will require less water. But again, pick up the pots to assess the irrigation need. And it's worth looking at the irrigation length. Consider shorter irrigation periods, but with more frequent cycles, to minimise the leaching, and that can really help. But our answer to the water issues is the H2 Grow. It's a product that we developed at our sister company, Amiga Sciences. And we have a liquid and a granular version, and it works in three ways. Helps wetting up. It also spreads the water, horizontally and vertically within the pot, to make sure all the corners are wetted up. But the key thing about this product is that it can be wet. So wetting agents quite unstable, and every time the growing media completely dries out, they break down slightly. So H2 Grow has some very long chains that really cope with long re-wetting and wetting cycles. And it's an excellent product. We even sell it to California and places like that. It's a worldwide product, and it has great results. And there's just some examples to show you watering a media with just water, and the difference. When you add H2 Grow, it really maximising the amount of water that the media can hold, without losing airspace. So it's still healthy. You're not saturating it, but you're just ensuring that it's at its optimum capacity. And this is another thing that can happen with peat reduction and peat free. You can get areas of wood fibre or bark that are quite dry. And using the wetting agent, will ensure that those areas are linked to the water, adding to the full capacity. And there's just an example of the granules and the liquids. And we obviously boost the levels in the peat free particularly, but also in the peat reduced. So that was just a little bit about the peat reduction. I can tell you a little bit about Osmocote 5, which is our new Osmocote. So it's new this year. We're planning to launch it in the autumn. So just a quick sneaky look at it, just to give you an idea what it's about. Osmocote has been around for over 40 years in Europe, and we're constantly trying to improve the product to give you the best performance. Osmocote 5 is now a 5th generation product. So we've been successfully using the 4th generation products, things like High End and Protect, which had real advantages in terms of the release pattern, giving you a low starting product with a higher release later, really conserving the nutrients for when the crop needs it. We have a new system with Osmocote 5, which replicates this and gives you that S-shaped curve that you're looking for, but we don't need to use the double coating that we used in the 4th generation. We have a new production process. But the biggest step forward with the Osmocote 5 is the enhanced trace element availability. And this has a real effect in the trials that we saw, much darker greener plants. And obviously, we do lots of years of research with these products to make sure that they're better than other products in the market. And I think you can see on these plants on the right, you can see that they're darker even than the Osmocote Exact High End, which is our premier product. So that's really what we're trying to achieve, step up in quality. And again, you can see on the left here, Osmocote 5, and so chrysanthemum. You've got this darker green. We've got similar growth. We're not looking to get huge plants. We want compact growth. We want good leaf colour. So what have we done with Osmocote 5? Well, we've obviously taken account of peat reduction and things like that. So we've increased the nitrogen level from 15% to 16%, and we've also increased the magnesium, because magnesium is key as well, and particularly putting less lime in mixes. So we've got 10% more lime, magnesium as well. We have 4 products. We're planning to launch the 5 to 6, the 8 to 9, and the 12 to 14 in the autumn. We're currently doing lots of trials, getting good results. I can show you a few pictures as we go along. But what is special about it, as I say, we're getting the same pattern of release as the High End was giving us, but without the dual coating. So we're getting better, more efficient release of nutrients, and that's what it's all about. You want the nutrients to release perfectly within the period, whether it's 8 to 9 months or 12 to 14 months. And you also want the best leaf colour. And this is where the optimised trace element availability comes in. I'll explain more about that. So we're getting an S-shaped curve and release, but we're also matching, what we call nutrient-match release. We're matching the nutrition to the plant demand, and it's always about the plants and when they need the nutrition. So we've got a new production technology I'm not really talking about, but it gives you the same release pattern as High End, but without the extra coating. So let's have a look at the release pattern. You can see the blue curve there is the Osmocote 5, and the orange curve is the trace elements in there. And you can see that they're in line. So we're getting the NPK releasing at the same speed as the trace elements. And this is really a step forward. Lots of the competitor products we see have very poor release of trace elements. Things like iron and copper are very poorly released. But within this Osmocote 5, we've got the release of them in harmony, and that is a big step forward. The other thing that we've done, we've added chelated trace elements. So what it means is if the trace elements are protected in solution there by the EDTA, and if the pH rises, they're still available. And this is again is important with peat reduction and peat free. And this is a lot of why we're seeing the better availability of the trace elements is that they're still available to the plant. So we have a great release of trace elements, but they're also staying more available, and that's the key to it. So we have to have this system to optimize the trace element availability. And this is the most striking thing that you'll see. The blue curve shows you the trace element release of Osmocote 5. The other two are Osmocote Exact High End and Standard. And you can see that we're getting 100% release of trace elements within the longevity with the Osmocote 5. And that's really why you're seeing a better release. So the other two products take a little bit longer to release it. But Osmocote 5 is releasing it when the plant needs it before you sell it to get better quality. So we've got the typical color coding with the Osmocote 5, and yellow for 12 to 14, blue for 8 to 9, and the brown for 5 to 6. So they're instantly recognizable. We've done a lot of trials. Myself, comparing different CRF products, and we see some real differences. These are some laurels that we potted in August, quite late potting because of the COVID last year. But the Osmocote 5 really stands out, and you're getting excellent quality there, just at a really efficient release pattern. Whereas some of the other products that we tested against weren't doing as well, and you weren't getting the growth. And this just shows you peat free and peat reduced. 20% peat free on the left, 40% peat reduction on the right with Fibagro. We're getting excellent leaf colour there. Great compact plants, very bushy, and you can see the results. So that'll be the product when we launch it. Osmocote 5 5th generation, so a real step forward. We're really excited about it, and we hope it'll have a big impact on growth. Right, so I said I'd talk a bit about plant production products. That could be quite a short talk, couldn't it? But obviously looking at sustainable products, ICL has been working very hard on new products. Just give you an update on what's happening. One of the biggest issues we come across is obviously vine weevil. We had an excellent product called Exempta, which followed on from our Intercept product. We've always had a chemical approach, but sadly there isn't one at the moment. So we've had to look again and come up with a strategy to give you, full season control of vine weevil. So we've got some innovative products, and I'm just going to show you how you can produce a plan, to control vine weevil. So we have our nematode range. It's a high quality nematode range produced in the UK, and we've got the advice to go with it. We've been using a lot of temperature probes and things like that to ensure that they're applied at the right temperature. But you can get excellent control. We've got lots of videos and information on application, because that's the key with nematodes, is that you don't kill them before they actually get to the pot. So if they're applied in the correct way, you can get really good control. So that's something that we're doing. We have two sorts of vine weevil. We have vine weevil Seeka based on Heterodactylis bacteriophora, standard temperatures, and we also have a cold tolerance Steinerama kraussii available as well. And this is something that growers have been taking up, but it's important to plan your production and use them at the right time. So this is something that we can advise on, and we have a planner that you can use to really make it easier. The most innovative product we have is a product called Pitcher GR, which is a biorational insecticide. It's based on a garlic extract, a refined garlic extract. It has a label for vine weevil control. It works really well. It's something that you would target the eggs with. So you would be looking at susceptible crops, seeing what the adults are laying, and then applying the picture. And it'll give you 6 weeks control in all temperatures of the eggs. And this can significantly reduce the amount of eggs that can hatch to virtually zero. And meaning that, for some crops that you have that are really susceptible, you can really reduce the damage. If you think things like heucheras and some of the other perennials are very susceptible. So it's applied as a top dress. So you can target the crops that are really susceptible, and you can use it indoors and outdoors. So that's quite an interesting product, and we'll be talking more about that. This is our planner program that we have, so we can come up with schedules for you based on your crops. This is an outdoor plan for vine weevil, with applications in different week numbers of the vine weevil Seeka and the picture granules, and also the cold tolerance products at different times. But obviously based on your production and the crops you're growing. And we can produce this as an online wall planner, or we can even print it out for you. So it makes it really easy, and then you can pre-plan your orders and make sure things are delivered on time. So that was just a little bit about vine weevil control. There are still options there, but it's a whole subject in itself. I said I'd talk a little bit about biostimulants. Obviously, there's less and less chemicals available. We need to be taking a more holistic approach to how we grow crops. They aren't a magic solution. They won't replace precise targeted chemical application, but they can improve plant health, and they can delay the need to use chemicals. Use them when you really need to, when you get a real attack of a pest or a fungus. But they're another tool that you can use, and we have lots of growers using them now, and we're developing programs to use with them, and they can really help the plant to protect itself, and improve the way they grow. I mean, they can stimulate the natural defense mechanisms of the plant, something we call a natural elicitor. So you can apply the product regularly, and it will build up the resistance of the plant. They can also obviously colonize around the roots and compete with other root pathogens, and that can be really powerful. And they can also help plants in stressful periods by giving them nutrients that require a lot of energy for the plant to find in stressful periods. And this is where they really help, is with abiotic and biotic stresses. And you can really build up resistance to this. And if you can counter some of these effects, you also get healthier plants that are less likely to get disease. So it's a whole way of thinking. You need to use them regularly. You need to understand why you're using them. But this is what ICL is doing. We're taking a professional approach to these biostimulants. You see lots of them around with lots of magic promises, but we're going through them and explaining to you where to use them and how they work. So this is just an introduction to them, really. We have a product called Vital Nova Prime, and this is a product that you would apply regularly to build up the natural elicitors and natural defences against stresses. It's based on yeast cell walls, which are very rich in amino acids. So there's powerful science going on behind this. There's another product called Guardian, which is more of a foliar product to strengthen tissues of plants. So when a plant's under real stress, sort of conditions that a fungus could attack, this can be used to really strengthen the plant and delay having to use a chemical. A new product that we're just launching at the moment is High Cure from Syngenta. This is another biostimulant. It's based on amino acids, and it can really improve plant stress, such as drought and high temperatures. And it's been used a lot, particularly in Holland, for different crops, and it does have an effect. And there's lots of information that we can talk about these things, but it's got lots of free amino acids, so they're readily available to the plant. But then it has longer chain products that are more slow release. So once you understand how these products work, you can use them more effectively. So that was just a little bit about plant protection products, showing you the way things are really going, and we're going to have to learn to use less chemicals. The chemicals that we have, we're going to have to use, you know, when we really need to use them, rather than using them too regularly. I've got a few pictures I can just show you of some of the peat-free trials that we're doing, if we're okay for time. Just to show you, we've done a lot of work on peat-free, but you shouldn't be afraid of it. These are some trials I set up, looking at some different wood fibres that we were using, just to compare. We put it in plants in early August outside, just a range of perennials and shrubs in peat-free. And you can see the wood fibre there on the surface. The surface is nice and dry. It's very good at keeping down the algae and the weeds. The plants, 2 weeks after potting, were getting away really well. Very fast rooting with these convolvulus neuron. You know, amazing within 2 weeks. Just potted from a 9 centimetre plant. Again, you can see even the imperators are getting away well. Euphorbias. And again, you know, really good rooting within different mixes. Compare the two mixes; they were both equally good. There's some others, miscanthus and euphorbias after 4 weeks. So it's an incredible speed of rooting, and right the way through the pot. So you can see the efficiency of the wetting agent. And even very slow things like formiums and imperators were rooting very well after 4 weeks. Yeah, and you can see the plants growing away there. So you know, it's quite interesting to see what you can do. This is after 10 weeks coming into it was very late potting, but coming into October they were still growing really well. Very good leaf colour there. You know, and there we are after 12 weeks, virtually rooted up, apart from the imperators, which were obviously a bit slower anyway. But it does give you the confidence. The leaf colour was very good. So you know, so these are the sort of things that we're doing. So I could try and show the videos if we have time.
Yeah, if you'd like to try the videos, should quickly share.
I'll just stop sharing for a second. They only take a few minutes.
Yeah. I'll ask 1 or 2 questions, sure, as you're figuring that out.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Brendan, just one of the questions there came in is, what are you recommending to growers at the moment that haven't used peat reduced mixes? What percentages are you recommending them to use?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm in a great position that ICL are 3 years down the road with the peat reduction. So they would have started off 3 years ago at about 15%, and a lot of the growers are up to 50% plus. But I decided to come in at 25%. If it's bedding, it's 20%, but generally pot plant nursery stock, 25% of the Fibagro. And I mean, it's been very well received on nurseries from growers that were using 100% peat all the time. The only issues were just little bits of tweaks with machinery to maybe slow it down a bit. But yeah, 20-25%, and the aim would be to increase that as time goes on, and possibly introduce Coir and bark for any peat-free ranges there.
Yeah, yeah. And another one that came in there, maybe yourself or Andrew might be able to answer, is there any kind of benefits using peat reduced mixes in regards to weed control, especially the things like liverwort and algae, since the top layer and they tend to be a bit more drier? Is there anything like that you've seen?
Yeah, personally, the higher the rate of wood fibre you put in, the less green and algae you're going to get. It won't get rid of it completely, but it's a big difference in comparison to 100% peat. To like when liverwort gets control, the wood fibre definitely reduces it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's an issue that they're facing at the moment, especially with the chemicals reduction and less products being available for the control of liverwort. So
Yes, absolutely.
anything at all that would bring it under control. And then in regards to the new Osmocote 5, which is a very exciting product by the looks of it, very exciting to see how that works out. In regards to more trace elements being available, is there different application rates to the mixes to use an Osmocote 5 in the future, or is it the same application rates that you'll be using?
Yeah, I mean, we've done some trials, you know, with and without the Micromax and at different rates. You definitely need less extra trace elements. So it's a real advantage to the growers, really. It's all in one package.
Yeah.
The trials I showed you there with the laurels, there was no extra trace elements with the Osmocote 5. So it was all coming from the granule.
Yeah, that's good news. That's definitely good news for being more cost effective and
Yeah.
for the grower. And just as you mentioned there, is there any way we can get access to the trials that you are doing, or where do we get the information that the growers can look at and use?
Yeah, I mean, we've got lots of trials that we're running. You know, I mean, Brendan's got some in Ireland as well, and we're running them all over the UK, and the trial stations like NIAB as well. So we will release that information. Yeah, in the autumn we'll have a big package of it.
That's brilliant.
And if we have normal times and we have trade shows, we can show these things.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then which of the Osmocote slow release products would you suggest might be useful in the production of outdoor field cut foliage? Need long, well-furnished, deep green glossy stems of species like laurel, pittosporum, eucalyptus, viburnum from September to April.
Yeah, I mean, this is in soil, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have we have a new product called Osmocote Pre-Plant. That's a 2-year product for field grown. That's looking quite interesting. I could share more information on that. We have our standard sort of AgroBen products, but I think for those products, those you want the better quality and the trace element release and everything. I think that would be the product.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to be involved in that and maybe do some trials. Yeah.
And I can distribute it to the person that asked the question.
Yeah.
Have you had any luck with the video?
I've got it here. I'll try and share it.
Yeah.
Right. I've gone for the production one so that we can. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Right. I'm hoping I can press play now. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Great. Brendan, you going to talk?
Yeah, sure. So this is at the factory in Nutbury, which we looked at on the map. So you're looking at the 2 hoppers there, which are being fed with the 2 different types of peat. And that is going inside in, which is going through the screening plant that we looked at earlier. So that's it going on up into the roof of the building for screening. These are the star screens then. There's 4 different sizes, and you're seeing the different particle sizes fall down into the individual bays, and then that peat is taken out and then blended into different mixes for pot plant, etc. This is just a shot of the bark that we use, and this is the wood fiber, and obviously coir then as well is used. Again, you're just seeing the video of the different size grades being taken out. So these are the guys that are up in the roof where all the hoppers are. So they're adding each individual ingredient in, and it's pre-programmed, and the right amount falls down into the conveyor in underneath and then up. And you can see the mixing drum there just in the right hand corner. That's where it's getting thoroughly mixed. So this is the packing side, which is the first one is the 75 litre. It's not used as much anymore. It's slow to produce. It's obviously more expensive. Most people will be on either IBCs or bulk bags, but it still has its place in the market. But I suppose really at a cost, and it's a product that needs to be ordered early in the year, so to be sure of it. Lead times are quite extended at the moment in the peak of the season, particularly this year. There's a huge demand on grown media this year. It must be up 25% on last year, which was a big year in itself. And this is where the bulk bags are filled in. They will be 3 cubic meter bulk bags. And then this is the pro bale machine then for the compressed bales, which you as a grower would put into a bale breaker. Great machine, very efficient. It's the quickest form of production. It's the cheapest price per cubic meter. You're getting more onto the bale. And there's an extra hood or cap put on top, which protects it. Sometimes the caps can blow off the top can blow off if you don't have a hood. And that's the bulk then, that's the last format. And this is just an area where the product is held for dispatch. You can see all the various different mixes. Everything is generally made just in time because of the CRFs. So, you cannot do a big stock build. There's a weekly production, and orders are received, put into a production plan, and dispatched. Generally, you could have lead times of 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. At the moment, it's very stretched because we're just so busy.
Thank you very much for that. That was very interesting and very insightful to see the factory in operation and to see the whole process for sure. Just another question that came in there, and more of an opinion maybe, is when do you think that growers will need to move over to completely peat-free, or will that ever be a thing?
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew. It's more or less being forced on growers now because peat is, the harvesting is practically stopped on peat. There are emergency lobbying going on to try and get peat harvesting started again. And personally, I think that peat should be produced for professional growers. For the likes of propagation and seedling, it's very hard to make a peat reduced or peat-free mix. And I do think that there will be legislation will be brought in. I hope there will, to allow peat to harvest just for the transition away. You need the peat to add to the other elements to transition away. I would say within 5 years, the amount of peat-free will be gone from, say, 3 or 4% up to 50, 60%. That's my opinion on it. I don't know, Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, particularly in England, there's a huge shift, in peat production. We are using it as a very scarce resource, so we're eking it out with the wood fibre and the coir. Lots of nursery stock is now grown on 40 and 50% peat production, and I think it's inevitable that the pressure from the multiples and things, it will happen in the next 5 years, I think.
Yeah,
but it's going to be difficult for propagation, and as he said, that is the area that is currently being safeguarded. But I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. And Kieran, do you have any final questions or any final comments that you would like to add?
No, it was just very interesting, and it's great to see peat reduction or peat-free alternatives in the pipeline. And it was a good, I would say, like a simplistic presentation. I thought it was very good. I just have one question. The influence of temperature on slow release fertilizer, you know, how does it impact on, say, you know, your different types of slow release fertilizers, say the south of England, say, compared to Northern Ireland, and the impact of mean daily temperature?
Yeah, I mean, this is where we use the Angela Webb software, and I have another presentation which shows you all the release curves. So yeah, you know, depending on if somebody's in Southampton or Birmingham or Edinburgh or Dublin or Belfast, it'll be different. So we do take account of that. And particularly in the north, you know, using an 8 to 9 month product will give you a more efficient release. You know, relying on a 12 to 14 with some of the cooler temperatures, it can be a little bit slow. But the main advantage of using an 8 to 9 is that you can use lower rates. So, you know, to use a 12, 14, you're going to need to use, say, 5 or 6 kilos for a vigorous plant, whereas you can reduce that by up to 25% with an 8 to 9 month. So it does have an effect on the cost effectiveness of it. And you think when we call it an 8 to 9 month product, that's at 21 degrees average. So taking into account temperatures in Northern Ireland, it's going to be 11 or 12 month release, you know. So yeah, that's something that we can advise on. We can compare products and longevities. So I have this discussion quite a lot with people, whether to use 8 to 9 month or 5 to 6 for different crops, and what rate to use.
Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, so that's all the questions. Thank you for a very informative and insightful webinar, and for taking time out of your busy schedules to present it to us this evening. It's much appreciated from us here at CAFRE, and thanks again. And I'll send on any of that information to the growers if they have any other questions that they would like to put to yourselves. We'll gather them up and send them off to you as well. So thank you. It seems like a very exciting future ahead, especially with the peat reduction and peat-free mixes and the new Osmocote 5 as well. So looking forward to seeing that as well. So thank you very much, and we'll finish the webinar at that there.
Okay, thank you very much, Connor, for inviting us.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you.
take care now.